The setting sun cast long shadows across the empty schoolyard as I made my way towards the old building. It was my school, Oakridge High, a sprawling structure of red brick and weathered stone. The hallways, usually bustling with activity, were eerily quiet. My footsteps echoed off the worn floor, amplified in the twilight stillness. I found my way to our club room. As I entered, the musty air and fluorescent lights created an appropriately spooky atmosphere for what would be our final gathering, the Paranormal Club's last hurrah. "Hey guys," I called out, spotting Miko and Ren huddled around our usual table. They looked up, offering weak smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. The weight of nostalgia hung heavy in the air. "Can't believe this is it," Miko sighed, absently shuffling a deck of tarot cards. 3 years of ghost stories and urban legends, and now. "Yeah," Ren chimed in, his normally boisterous voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Who would have thought half the club would bail over summer break?" I nodded, settling into my usual chair. The Paranormal Club had never been a serious endeavor, more of an excuse to hang out and swap spooky tales. But it had been ours, a refuge for those of us who didn't quite fit elsewhere. And now, with only 3 members left, we were being unceremoniously booted from our cozy hideaway. "Well," I said, trying to inject some cheer into my voice, "we might as well go out with a bang, right? Any ideas for our grand finale?" Ren's eyes lit up, a hint of his usual mischief returning. "Actually, I've been thinking, what if we did a tour of the school's 7 mysteries?" Miko raised an eyebrow. "You mean those old urban legends? I thought we agreed most of them were pretty lame." "Yeah, but we've never actually checked them all out together," Ren countered. "Come on, it'll be fun. One last adventure for the Paranormal Club." I found myself nodding along. It wasn't the most exciting proposal, but there was a certain poetry to it. Why not? It's not like we have anything better planned. And so, armed with nothing but our phones and a vague sense of curiosity, we set out to explore the 7 mysteries of Oakridge High. Little did we know, we were about to uncover something far more unsettling than any of us expected. Our first stop was the old stairwell in the West Wing. As we approached, the creaking floorboards beneath our feet seemed unnaturally loud in the empty school. "Legend has it," Ren began dramatically, "that if you listen closely, you can hear the voices of students who died here decades ago." Miko rolled her eyes. "Right, because our 50-year-old school is just teeming with ghosts." We climbed the stairs, our footsteps echoing in the enclosed space. At first, there was nothing unusual, but as we reached the 3rd-floor landing, I paused, tilting my head. "Do you guys hear that?" I asked, straining my ears. Miko and Ren stopped, listening intently. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, almost imperceptibly, a faint whisper of sound drifted through the air. It was probably just the wind whistling through a crack somewhere, but in the growing darkness, it was easy to imagine it as something more. "Probably just the ventilation system," Miko said, but I noticed her eyes darting nervously. As we descended, I couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers were growing louder, hovering just on the edge of comprehension. But every time I tried to focus on them, they slipped away, leaving me wondering if I'd imagined it all. We made our way down the dimly lit corridor towards our next destination. The school felt different at night, the familiar hallways taking on an almost labyrinthine quality. "Next up is room 205, Ren said, consulting his phone. "You know, the one that's supposed to occasionally disappear?" Miko snorted. "Yeah, because classrooms just vanish into thin air." The hallway stretched before us, lined with identical doors. Room 203, 204. There was 205, right where it should be. We paused outside, exchanging glances. "Well, it's definitely here," Ren said with a nervous laugh. "Should we go in?" I reached for the handle, but as my fingers brushed the cool metal, I hesitated. For just a split second, the door seemed to shimmer. "Did you see?" I started to ask, but Miko was already pushing past me, turning the handle. The door swung open, revealing a perfectly ordinary classroom. Desks arranged in neat rows, a whiteboard at the front, motivational posters on the walls, and yet something felt off. The air seemed thicker somehow. The shadows in the corners a little too deep. "Let's go," I said, suddenly eager to leave. Nothing to see here. As we walked away, I glanced back over my shoulder. For a moment, I could have sworn the number on the door read 206. But that was impossible, right? We made our way to the school's main entrance, where a life-sized bronze statue of the school's founder stood. It was a familiar sight, one we passed every day without a second thought. "They say, if you look closely, sometimes the statue's expression changes," Ren explained as we approached. Miko snorted. "It's a statue, Ren. It doesn't change." But as we stood there, staring at the weathered bronze face, I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Had the statue always been facing this direction? I could have sworn it usually looked toward the door, but now its unseeing eyes seemed fixed on us. "Guys," I said slowly, "does something seem off to you?" Ren nodded. "Yeah, it's like it's watching us." "Don't be ridiculous," Miko snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. "It's just a trick of the light." We hurried past, but I couldn't resist glancing back one last time. For a split second, I could have sworn I saw the statue's eyes following our movement. But when I blinked, it was motionless once more, its gaze fixed straight ahead as always. Our next stop took us to the staff room. The door was unlocked, not unusual for our laid-back school, even at night. "This one's kind of creepy," Ren said as we entered. "Apparently there's always an extra name on the attendance register. A student who doesn't exist." I suggested we look at the registers of our classes since we knew everyone in them. We found the stack of registers on a cluttered desk. Miko flipped it open, running her finger down the list of names. "See?" she said. "Nothing weird here, just normal names." But as I looked over her shoulder, something caught my eye. At the very bottom of the list, almost hidden in the binding, was a name I didn't recognize. It seemed as if it had been written in a different ink. "Wait," I said, pointing. "Who's that?" Miko and Ren leaned in, squinting at the name. I can't quite make it out," Ren said, his brow furrowed. We quickly checked the registers for our other shared classes: math, history, and biology. In each one, we found an extra name, always at the bottom, always just barely legible. "This is impossible," Miko whispered, her face pale in the dim light. "We know everyone in these classes. There can't be an extra student." A chill ran down my spine, and I suddenly felt very exposed in the empty staff room. "Let's move on," I said quickly, closing the register with a snap. The school library was our next destination. Rumor had it that there was one shelf that always remained empty, no matter how many times librarians tried to fill it. "There," Ren whispered, pointing to a shelf near the back. Unlike the others crammed with volumes, this one stood completely bare. Miko ran her finger along the shelf, frowning at the lack of dust. "It's clean, like books are constantly being taken off and put back on." I reached out to touch the shelf and immediately snatched my hand back. "It's cold, really cold." We all placed our hands on the wood, feeling the unnatural chill that seemed to emanate from it. And as we stood there, I could have sworn I heard the faintest whisper of pages turning, coming from the empty air above the shelf. "Maybe they're just renovating this section," Miko suggested, but her voice lacked conviction. Something about it felt wrong, as if the emptiness was something tangible, a presence rather than an absence. "Come on," I said, suppressing a shudder. 2 more to go." Our 6th stop was the basketball court, where a pair of worn sneakers had sat in the corner untouched for as long as anyone could remember. Legend had it that they belonged to a student who had vanished decades ago, and that sometimes they would be found in different parts of the school, as if their owner was still wandering the halls. As we approached, Miko let out a startled gasp. "They're gone!" Sure enough, the alcove was empty, the dust undisturbed save for footprints leading away. We followed the trail, our flashlight beams dancing across the floor, until it led us to the pool area. And there, at the edge of the water, sat the shoes. "Okay, "This isn't funny anymore," Miko said, her voice shaking. "Who's messing with us?" But we all knew deep down that this was no prank. We observed a puddle of water around the shoes, as if their unseen owner had just stepped out of the pool. Our final stop was the music room, home to an old upright piano rumored to play by itself at midnight. "This is it, guys," Ren said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The last of the 7 mysteries." Miko checked her phone. It's 11:58, 2 minutes till midnight. We entered the darkened room. The piano stood silent in the corner, its outline barely visible in the gloom. "I don't like this," Miko muttered, hugging herself. "Maybe we should leave." We gathered around the piano, its keys yellowed with age. The seconds ticked by, each moment stretching into eternity. "This is stupid," Ren said, forcing a laugh. "It's just an old piano. Watch." He reached out to press a key. The clock struck midnight. Before Ren's finger could touch the ivory, a series of notes drifted through the air, a melancholy melody that sent shivers down my spine. We stared in horror as the keys depressed on their own, playing a melody I vaguely remember hearing before. "This isn't possible," Miko whispered. The music grew louder, more insistent. It was beautiful yet terrifying, a mournful tune that spoke of loss and longing. "We need to go," I said, my voice higher than usual. "Now!" Without a word, we turned and fled, not stopping until we burst out of the school's main doors into the cool night air. As we stood there panting and wide-eyed, I felt a profound shift in my perception. All those stories we'd laughed about, all the legends we'd dismissed, suddenly they didn't seem so ridiculous anymore. "Guys," I said slowly, my voice shaking, what if all of it is real?" Miko and Ren looked at me, their faces pale. I could see the same realization dawning in their eyes. "How can we come back here?" Miko whispered. "How can we sit in those classrooms, walk these halls, knowing what we know now?" Ren shook his head, his usual bravado completely gone. "Who would even believe us if we told them?" As we walked home in silence, the weight of our discovery pressed down on us. The Paranormal Club had been a joke, a bit of fun to pass the time. But now, we were aware of a truth too strange and terrifying to share. I cast one last glance at the school as we left. In the darkness, it seemed to loom larger than ever. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was looking back at me, aware that we had uncovered its secrets.